everybody, and welcome to KeyKulture podcast again. This is your host Matei Gheorghiu, and as always, we have
Niilo Tarnanen.
hi Niilo. And today we have Gheorghiu, who is the artistic director of LeNEM, or Le Nouvel Ensemble Moderne, which is one of the leading contemporary music ensembles in North America. And you will be happy also to know that you're the first guest we have from across the pond.
Oh.
Yeah. Well, hello to you.
Bonjour.
Bonjour. And Normand was, if I'm not mistaken, the oboe player of the ensemble for quite a while. And
Yes,
now he's the artistic director.
Exactly. I was founding member in '89, played oboe for 25 years with the group. Yeah.
Yes. You're also the first oboe player who is on our podcast as well.
Whoa.
Actually. Yeah.
Check.
No, I think we had one flutist so far from the woodwinds, but yes, not many woodwinds. All right, so
that would be a good question, actually, because that would be for your next podcast, whoever composer you have, is why on earth the oboe part is always half complicated than the flute and the clarinet, and the solo are kind of always the same, like high tones, suspended high notes, and then you have blah blah blah, and then he blah blah blah. That's the kind of thing that there is.
Yeah,
it's really funny just to see. I was the librarian with the Nouvel Ensemble Moderne at the beginning as well, so you could see, the part for the flute would be that thick, and the oboe would be like 3 pages.
Maybe it's also a case that not so many composers are that familiar with the double reeds.
Yeah.
Besides being composer, also a bassoonist myself, so I kind of know some of that problem.
Yeah, exactly. And it goes also with what kind of instrument. If it's a loré or riguta or German or whatever it is, the bore and the reed, and there's a lot of things.
Actually, before we go into
the brain cell that explode and all this, it's a crazy instrument.
Yeah, how about before we go to the questions we prepared for you, how about we talk about this, since we now started it? Like, I told myself, this is why I don't get many performances as a composer, because I've noticed when I've been in Finland that every ensemble has flute, clarinet, violin, cello, piano, and then I'm like, everybody writes for these instruments all the time. All ensembles are the same. I'm never going to write a solo flute piece, a solo clarinet piece in my life. If somebody asks me for a solo oboe or trumpet piece, I will do it. But this is starting to be so cliche that I cannot do it anymore.
Yeah, exactly. It's a strange, and also for the configuration that we have with NEM, this like London Sinfonietta or the small version of Intercontemporain, where you have one of each, winds and strings. There's quite a lot of repertoire, but not that much, and the bassoon especially is not very involved in this. There's not that many, there's not that many pieces. I know that with our bassoon player, is often free, because the instrumentation is not always with the double reed oboe is the same thing.
Yeah, and when I was studying composition, my teacher I wanted to do pieces like accordion, trumpet, whatever, the cello, and my teacher was always like, no, just don't do this. Like, you're not gonna find people to play, just do flute, clarinet, piano. And
yeah, exactly. But there's more and more the language, and there's good books now. There's good method. The one by Peter Veal is very excellent for oboe. It works. It's easily understandable. So there's means now where you could use that. But of course, you would need to know somebody that plays the thing. It makes life much easier to try. You have to try the fingering, and for me, it brings also the question of this relation between composer, player, conductor, and public. I mean, there's a whole ergonomy, there's a whole life in there that I'm not sure it works very well. In fact, I'm pretty sure it doesn't work very well.
Why is that?
My understanding, and you can just react. Maybe I'm totally wrong. We, as player, and you all have been trained as players sometime in your life, we weren't so much asked to talk about the music we were playing. Structure, lines, why this, and all this. We play the thing, they tell us how, but for ourselves to play and talk about the music, it's not that great. And when we interact with the composer, 90% of the time would be to, oh no, this glitch doesn't work. Oh, okay, yes, this you can do that. This multiphonic is not good. You know, that's about the level at which you're going to be talking to a composer, because the piece will arrive and it's going to be done. The piece is done. It's written.
So what you're saying is that it's more like a dry discussion and it's not like very much soul in it.
Yeah, because we're not trained to talk about this. We're not trained to talk about music making, interpretation in Mozart, in Bach, in Beethoven, in whatever. So when we arrive with a living composer, we have no clue what to say. We just don't know. You know, this conversation doesn't really exist apart from you can do this, you can do that, how do we do, and that kind of thing. But we don't get into the music really. And for me, it's if we could solve that, we would have a very different kind of music making, extremely different music making. I did so many readings in my life, all kind of level of composer, all kind of, and more, the first question I ask the composer is, for whom are you writing this? And most of the time I say, the next thing I say is, obviously it wasn't for me, because I have no fun whatsoever playing this. So what wasn't for me?
Yeah, this is definitely making the final cut. Yeah.
So for whom did you write this? You know, did you write this for you, for your teacher, for your colleagues, for the public? Really? You write this for the public? If I don't understand, how could they? Because I'm the one who's going to be playing it. You know? So if I have no clue, how on earth the public is going to have any clue? So for me, this link of conversation really needs to be worked on. Very, very difficult.
How about you give us an example? Let's say you are the musician and you're talking to us composers. How should the musician best behave in a situation like this, and how should the composer behave best in a situation like this?
I think it would have to start with even before the piece is starting to be composed. Is okay. What is this about? What are you? What is this music about? What are we going to talk about? What is the plot of this music? Okay, and what is my role in this? What is my role? If it's a solo, or if it's orchestra or whatever, what am I gonna do? Do I personify something? I'm there for this kind of character or whatever. What? And then, okay, when you bring some idea, I can say, okay, well, this works, but I could do this, I could do that. If you want to go this far and in there, we could do also this. We can try and then go back to the draw, the thing and writing again and come back and add this on and off and check. The plot was supposed to be doing this. Is this what really happened? Let's check. Let's invite people, play the thing, and see. And ask them, what did you get? How is this? Because ultimately, we're playing this for the people. I mean, it's for them that we're doing this. It's not for me. It's not for you. Sorry, it's not for it's not for yourself. You ultimately you have something to say to the audience, but we have to check. I did work with people in theater and dance and everything, and that's just a current thing they do. Before a show, months before, they would arrive, they would try things, they would invite people, a bunch of people, just a little, maybe 10, 15 people, and see how they react, how it goes. Did you get this? No, okay, no. But
yes, I think what you're talking is a really important thing. It's crucial to have a real communication between everybody who is involved in the musical situation, and it's very true that often we just kind of do what we are doing without really paying attention if our thoughts get through, if the others understand what we're doing and what is our purpose there. And exactly. I would totally love doing it that way, that I could have the conversation with each musician, with many of the audience members all the time, even before going into the writing process. Unfortunately, I have to say that at least my experience is that sometimes the musicians don't even want to start the discussion.
Exactly.
You know, when I'm just about to start the composition.
Yes.
So I don't know if you have good experiences of how to get the discussion to start early enough.
Yeah. Well, I think for me, it comes back to the beginning of this discussion. Is we're not trained to talk about music. Musicians are not trained to talk about music. And it's crazy because
they do talk a lot about Bach or Mozart, though.
No, they can't. I'm sorry. No, the audience doesn't understand a thing about Mozart. And I mean, they cannot have a discussion. They're going to react. They're going to fulfill because, I mean, it's like pop song now. I mean, they just react to it. They're in a very pleasant place because they know how it starts, how it ends. They did make the whole emotional path. They know the story before it starts. So that's so they can talk about that. But music is one of these things that, and it's a very strange thing. Music is a very, very extremely strange thing. It's the only art that lives through somebody else. So you write something, and it has to go through me in order to get to the audience. I mean, you have your score and you show that to, even to me, I have no clue. But somebody has to go and get into the music and give it to somebody else. And at the same time, so it's really a living art. It happens only because somebody is playing it. Otherwise, it doesn't. It's just like a book. A book. It's there. You have to read it, and then you don't necessarily need somebody that read the thing for you. You can do. But music, you have to have somebody that give it to you. And on the other hand, we have what we call the recording, the CDs, you know, that stop the music to be a living thing. Then you just frame the thing into something that is not living anymore. each time you're going to listen to it, it's going to be the same. It's going to be, and that is such that's not reality. This is a point of view of the recording engineer, of whoever makes the cut, whoever makes the sound is not real. There's nothing real about a recording, nothing. But the people, that's what they think. And even the musician think that this is the real thing. And we're trained to play like recordings. So we cannot miss notes. No, I'm serious. We cannot miss notes. We have to be perfect and blah, 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 blah. And then this burden on us. And on top of this, I mean, you have 3 rehearsals and you play. I mean, even contemporary music is even worse than that. If you play an orchestra piece, you're lucky if you have half an hour of your piece. And a rehearsal, and then it's played, and that's it. You know, it's...
Yeah, I was gonna say that I think that's where the problem really is, because it's always in a way a matter of money. And maybe here I can jump into the first question I was actually going to ask you.
Yeah.
Because you are the artistic director of one of the leading North American contemporary music ensembles. And unlike many ensembles, yours is quite institutionalized. You work closely with the University of Montreal. You have office people that work for you. Can you tell us how Nouvel Ensemble Moderne was formed, and how did it get to such a privileged position in terms of success, quality, financing, employment, permanent people working there? Because I remember I had a performance with you a couple of years ago, and I remember we rehearsed my piece like 10 hours. Yeah. And that's not what happens in real life.
Did you like that?
Yes, of course I liked it.
Yeah. And was it successful? Was that? Did you waste time in this 10 hour?
No, of course, I wouldn't say so.
You know, and then we can go on and then we can work more. NEM came from sorts of a dream and utopia that Lorraine had of taking the time to do
so Lorraine Viancourt is the conductor of
exactly.
The ensemble.
He was the founder of Nouvel Ensemble Moderne. She did play a lot of piano. She made lots of creation and all this, and she had a group called Les Événements du Neuf, which was a concert society that was giving premiere, lots of music, and it was very strange. And I mean, it was a very flamboyant group. And at some point, she arrived to the conclusion that people didn't know the repertoire of contemporary music. So you needed people that plays that repertoire, a bit like Intercontemporain would do or something like this. So it started, she was teaching at the University of Montreal. She had the Ensemble de Musique Contemporaine at the university. And she said, okay, let's it started, the plan was to make a concert. That was a plan when it started. It was like, okay, let's make a concert. Lots of people had worked with Lorraine or were her student at the university before. So she gathered people she knew who liked contemporary music, and that's how it started. I mean, we had music for 2 concerts. We didn't have money to make 1 concert, so we made a concert that was like 3.5 hours long. You know, it was just I remember the first concert was 11. After the concert was over, people were, I mean, screaming, and we said, okay, let's do an encore. So, and we started at First Light by George Benjamin at 11 at night. You know, the piece lasts like 20 minutes or so. You know, it's so I mean, it's just so it's that's how it started. Being the university, the help of the university helped a lot about having a place to rehearse, place to have office. The team always has been very small, even though we have people with a salary and all this. It's a small team. We're 3 permanent person to make this move. It's a bit crazy these days. Soon, very extremely soon, the level of the ensemble was recognized internationally. So we did tour a lot, and that's why we could work. It's the touring at the beginning that make the money come in, because there weren't that many group at the time. We're talking early 90s. So there in Europe, there weren't that many ensemble at the time, and I don't even talk about Canada or United States. I mean, so it was easy to do standard music, contemporary music, and tour, going into all these festival and everything. And big part of the money came from that. That's how. And if you have lots of that kind of money flowing in, then the government is very keen into funding.
Keep it going.
Exactly. That's how I did. And we started a forum at the same time in 91. With this, I mean, this thing is just mad. If you think about it, it's just mad. Having 8 composer where
forum is a workshop for like young composers, right?
Exactly. So we had composer coming from all over the world, in fact, that would spend a month with us. So we would rehearse each composer between 9 to 12 hours each piece, and for what? For at the end giving a concert. Basically, that's what it is. You know, it's there's like no big prize money or whatever. The big prize is that the composer have the luxury to work their music for a month in this kind of environment, and having discussion and talk with other composer and everything. That was the. But it's not real. I mean, this is utopia. This is real utopia. But this aspect of time always has been extremely important and is still very important. We don't do it at the same scale that we had. The funding really vanished over the years. Since there's more and more and more contemporary group, why having NEM playing Ligeti Concerto in Paris? You know, it doesn't make sense anymore, you know, to do that. You know, so touring went away, and then you're stuck with doing, and that's another bizarre thing. You do premieres of pieces, and that's it. People don't want to have repertoire, really. You know, they want to have new music. But this is a bit insane.
People or the government or the artistic
everybody,
directors.
Broadcaster. It's funny because broadcaster would broadcast Beethoven's 7th Symphony every night if they
20
could.
times, yeah.
But if you say, okay, I have a piece by Matei Gheorghiu that we played, I mean, 2 years ago, and they would say, no, we already recorded it, so we don't want to have it. You have something else. It's I mean, it's really it's a very bizarre. At the beginning of NEM, also, a lot of the grant for the composer came from Radio Canada, who's the broadcast in Canada, big broadcast company, governmental. So they would pay rehearsal time, and they would pay the commission to the composer. So that I mean, this is a dream. Now we have to pay for all of this, and Radio Canada is not recording any concert anymore. I mean, it's so the business now is completely changed. I mean, it has nothing to do with the type of concert we have to do. It's different. The way you present things is different. The evolution goes warp speed. I mean, it's just mad. And probably it's a bit like you. All this for small audiences. I mean, it's not like Claude Champagne, you remember the hall, Claude Champagne is full. I mean, it's no, especially when you do a piece one time, one shot. I mean, people have to be a bit mad to go to these events. So all of this makes, in this time, people want to have their money well spent. So if there's not like big audience and all of this, the grants are going down. So I mean, it's a weird, it's a very difficult, it's a very difficult time, and more, it's difficult to first. It costs a lot of money to keep excellency. You need the time to rehearse. You need to give good condition. You have to all this, and this, the people who give money, they don't get it. You know, they don't understand this. You know, so we're excellent. Yes, it's because we're rehearsing. That's why, you know, that there's no trick in there. There's no trick. And if you rehearse, then it costs money. If you want to have always the same people and build a sound and all of this.
We're going to ask you soon also about how the funding is going, but
Yeah.
I'm just going to ask you very fast. Like I remember that the Laurent, the conductor, has told me that our like emblem was 1 minute of music, 1 hour of rehearsal time.
Yep.
Is this still happening with all these problems that you have been talking about?
Well, I have to say that it's a bit less. It depends of the repertoire. I would say that at the very beginning, it was like that. We had to learn everything. Everybody in the group had to learn everything. All kinds of style of music, all kind of writing, all kinds of, learn all the multiphonics, the quarter tone fingering. I mean, it took years to get that. Now we don't have to spend that much time deciphering a part. So we're much more efficient than we were 30 years ago as a group and for each player individually. So, but it's not an hour, but
I'd be happy with half an hour per music.
yeah, exactly. But no, we would spend, it's not rare, we would spend, for a piece that we played before, we would spend probably like 6 hours rehearsal at least. Or for a new piece, it would go from between 9 to 12 hours, basically. That's the time that we would usually spend on piece. If it's exceptionally difficult or for some reason, all kinds of, it could go to 15 or 18 hours, depending of how it is. But the other thing is that it's spanned over months. It's not like the week before the concert. So if we have a concert in April, the first rehearsal would be in January. So,
actually, this brings to my mind a follow-up question.
Yeah.
How do you make it happen schedule-wise? I mean, often, at least into the extent that I know, ensembles maybe typically work quite kind of project-wise. That okay, now we are focusing to this, and now we're focusing to this. How you get it work so that you really can work in a long-term process.
The thing that we decided many years ago is, even though it's not for the musician a full-time job, they all play in another group and in another ensemble. We want to have always the same player. That's that. So it makes our life hell for us scheduling rehearsal. Really. But at the same time, it allows us, since we would like to make like 4 days of rehearsal in the concert, it's impossible, just because everybody is working everywhere. So somehow the way because I remember the first concert we did was on May 3rd, 1989, and the first rehearsal was on January 6th of that night, that year. So it always has been like this. We read the music, we know, oh, this is a big solo, this is just chamber thing. It makes us know how the music is going. Each player can put his marks and know what he is getting himself into. And then it makes really, when we come back, okay, we can go a bit further, even though if it's a month later, it doesn't matter. And we could have rehearsal that overlap 2 or 3 projects. You know, so it really is built in this way that they could be, the rehearsal are not completely, if we do an opera, then of course the rehearsal are going to be like for the opera, because that's how it's made. But for standard, I mean, we could have rehearsal in January for the concert that would be in April, the concert in February, and it would go. But each rehearsal is for a piece. We're not doing like a orchestra thing that they're going to have
all the 6 pieces.
One rehearsal, you know, no. So it's always like a piece. We're doing this, we're working that. And the other thing is that there's not that many conductors that could rehearse 15 hours a piece of music. You know, there's not that many conductors that can do that. But but Lorraine, the way it's organized, I mean, I don't know somebody that is that much organized, that use so well the time. She arrived before a rehearsal. She knows what she wants to work on, and it's that bar, and it's here and there, and I mean, and it's finish and from. I mean, she knows how to work, how to go further, and she's always want to be surprised by the music. For her, the best thing ever is to open a new score. For her, it's just like, okay, it's like a trip going into some strange country, and what are we going to discover here? And okay, let's try this more. Let's say it's really that's what she wants to do, and really make sure that we really can go as far as we can, and also that we come to some sort of an ease about it. You know, that when we play, we know that the clarinet's going to come in, or that the others, you know, we're not going to be surprised the night of the concert by the music. You know,
I would actually like to ask a question about the worlds, those weird countries that you're going into. That do you have certain styles that you play more than the others? Do you have a profile in this sense as an ensemble? You already mentioned that you have been studying many hours on the microtonal fingerings and multiphonics and so on. So, what if you could describe what are those styles of contemporary music that you have been working the most, or what are the most dearest composers to you?
If you ask me, for me, all this Italian music, Gervasoni, Sciarrino, Guiginono, this music,
Okay.
I love. I really love. I really think that they invented a language of their own, and it's a language, even though it's not. I mean, Sciarrino music. I mean, you look at this. I mean, it's just noise and barely audible noise. I remember we're playing a concert of his music in Marseille. And so we rehearsed, and I mean, I think that the loudest dynamic was 4 Ps. I mean, it was just like, very, very soft. And
To
Loren,
explain to the audience that is maybe not that familiar with the musical terminology, that basically means that it's really soft.
yeah,
It's
extremely
softer
soft.
than the softest places in average
Yeah,
pieces
exactly,
of other styles.
exactly.
Yeah, but
So
Cherino
Loren,
likes to do that to people. So
Yes.
and Loren would always say, "Oh, you have to play a bit more, because the public is not gonna hear anything." And I remember first rehearsal with Charino in the hall, and his first thing was, "It's too loud. You're playing too loud." But Loren said, "I mean, they're not gonna hear anything." He said, "The thing is, I want the people to go on the edge of their seat and being like this. Are they playing? Maybe they're not. So they're going to be involved in the music, not being, packed, jam packed, and you don't have to do anything, and you're full. No, you have to have the people to work to get there. And I think that this is, for me, one of the thing is, okay, he has the sense of the audience. He has the sense of, okay, they have to be in action in order to get this. And also, I think that the dramaturgy, the drama in the music is fairly clear. You get into this, and he plays with your emotion. He goes there and plays with it. That's what. And for this, you don't need a note, really. You need a good plot. That's what you need. And I think that Cherino has this quality. Javazini has this quality as well. So this for me would be, personally. There's also spectral music. I like quarter tones. The French are good in this, but we have one in Quebec. His name is Bruce Mather, and he writes extremely well that kind of music. Doesn't move too fast, because playing quarter tone is like playing another instrument. As a bassoonist, when you're a part with quarter tone, your brain just doesn't want to do it. You have to
But
learn.
then when
I
you learn
I started playing.
it opens you a whole new world,
Okay,
and you love it.
Yeah,
So-
completely, and it brings. But for the player, it's like playing a new instrument, basically, because what you see on the page doesn't connect with your brain and your finger. So you have to make new connection and work it. But at the same time, for me, all this music is extremely close to Baroque music. Very, very close to Baroque music. These frottements, these little space where the music just touch to each other, and then it resolve. And for me, it's really, again, it's closer to the dance, spectral music. But if it goes at 100, and some composer, it's just like, why do you bother writing quarter tone? At the speed it goes, and everybody makes quarter tones. I'm not too sure the effect what it does really for the purpose of. In fact, I don't know their purpose. Basically, But for me, this, or you have we played lots of music from Nordic countries, Norwegian, Lindberg and Thoresen and these composer. This is it's completely a different. This is extremely written, extremely busy. My reflection was, oh God, they do have long nights, to write all these notes. Whoa.
Yeah, I would actually have to say, to jump in just a second. Since I come from Romania, I've heard enough Romanian contemporary music, and since I lived in here, I've heard a lot of Finnish contemporary music. And I was shocked to realize that in Romania, when everybody's loud and everyone's talking a lot, the music is usually slow and meditative. And then when you come to Finland, where nobody's speaking and everybody's quiet, the music is very busy and very angry. So it's the opposite of how it should be.
Yeah. It's funny because when I remember the first fugam we had, and I said, okay, here we go. We're gonna have like 8 young composer. We're gonna play like 8 times the same piece. I mean, it's gonna be hell, you know. And a bit like what you just said, each country is each part, each have their own ecology about the music, their own voice about the music. The French, you know, it's really quarter tone, fast. I mean, it's like the way they talk, you know, and sometimes you have these extremely nice color and lines, and then it comes back again. You could be like in the Place de la Concorde, you know, at 5 p.m. You know, I mean, and then you have this Italian music, which is extremely all flavorish. You know, it's hors de vivre. You know, you can almost smell the wine. I mean, it doesn't really matter. It's just so each part have their own identity, and it's fun to explore that. And quite frankly, for me, I told you that like the Italian music, but for me, I had lots of fun playing all of these music because it brings you into different universe. You know, it's just and it's fun, especially when you have the time. If you don't have time and you have these score to learn, it's just like, okay, no. But if you have the time to get into the music, feel it, see how it moves, you know. For me, playing contemporary music is extremely close to dancing. Extremely close to dancing. Because you have, when you play this music, you have to have like a choreography. I mean, yeah, your finger, your brain cannot play this music. Cannot. You're always going to miss something. So your body has to learn how to play the music. So you have to teach your body how to play the music. And in order to do that, well, you have to move, you have to and go like this, you know. And this is what is going to be happening when you're going to play. It's not like, is it in 4, is it in this? No, because a 3 and 7 and goes, it has its life and it brings. And this is how, for me, I get into the music, you know. It's by the dance of the music.
Actually, when you earlier were speaking about if we understand each other and about the communication that we are not trained for, but I started thinking, because as a composer, I think when I write music, I think it's very as motions in my head, and I think like now this is moving like this, and then of course I try to put this idea into or this emotional kind of experience into music. But it would actually be really interesting to sometimes to discuss some experienced performing musician about if they have the same idea of that motion based on the notation, if we are really speaking the same language there, same language of the dance.
Yeah, exactly. And I don't think that I can talk for all the musicians. I think I'm talking for me. I'm gonna talk for me. But this way of getting, I think everybody is doing it. It's not everybody that would verbalize it this way, or this is part of how do we talk about the music, you know, the way we know how the way we take to communicate And sorry, I'm jumping here, but we have to talk about the notation. Notation is a big, it's a big aspect of, because that's how you get you convey your idea to my body. It's through notation. That's how it goes, you know. And then it's difficult. There's not much that has evolved about notation, quite frankly. There's some, you know, there's some basic elements, 3/4 bars, 2/4 bars, and whatever it is, triple, duple things, and whatever it is. This has their own life. There's this little, but come to a point where if it's too there's too many change or too many whatever it is, or 5/4 and then 3/4 and then 2/4. Okay, what? How do we make the difference here? How do we organize this? Because in the music, the way it's written, the way it's on the page, the way it's conduct, the way one has this feeling, the feeling is, Lorraine says often, you know, when she has to choose, I said, I have to choose. I'm either with you or with you, because the way the music is written, I cannot be with both of you when I conduct. There's no way, because so, and sometimes it's okay, sometimes it's not. I'm not here to judge that, but this is part of the problem. But not the problem, but the part where the musician has his own voice. And this has really to do for me with the notation. For me is, okay, what place do you give to the musician apart from the immense love you have for the performer? But what is the place of the musician in your music? And then why are you writing so many things? Acts and this, boom, dot, silence, retro. Why do you need to do all this if you don't trust? Is it because you don't trust me? I don't know what to do. Your music is not gonna tell me how to play it. The music itself should be able to do things, and the way it's written, and
I have to say I've had a problem myself with this, because I think the way I notate music is very much in between, let's say, classical tradition and a more modern tradition. Mm-hmm. I've always thought about this, how difficult it is for a musician to have an accent, a staccato, a tenuto for every note, for forte going crescendo to the next note, which is fortissimo, then decrescendo to the next note. Like, so I do, but in the same time, I think there's another problem, and that is that nowadays, because the style is like this, musicians expect that you write stuff, that they don't actually do it by themselves. So I try to fill in the blanks wherever I think they're not gonna get it.
Yeah, exactly. But you know, the musicians are doing this in Mozart as well. You know, because they don't think about that in Mozart neither. You know, because in Mozart, it's what for me personally, that's my quest is, what does it mean to, when we talk about interpretation? What is that meaning really? You know, when you say I'm gonna, is it playing the music? Is it being like a parrot and just, you know, repeating things? What does it mean? Am I allowed to take out notes? Am I allowed to? Would that be bad? Would it be okay if I, you know, what is my space? What is my space? And like I say, we don't do that with Mozart. We don't do that with anybody. What is the place? The place is, you have to do it. You have to be up to the text, and that this is quite frankly, you're composers. And I think that between what you write and what you want, there's room there, there's a space in there that I think belong to us. That's for me. That's how it works. You write something, but I have to, because you're not always there when you play your music. It's a good thing, because otherwise it would mean that you have like a piece and you're going around the world to have your piece played.
I would be happy if that happened, by the way.
It's a complicated question, but the more I have been thinking it, the more I have been getting to the resolution that you kind of you have to give your main idea clearly, but then you kind of also need to leave something, let's say, in between the lines, so that the performing musician can add their own personal meaning there. And it's possible that these personal meanings vary by performers. It's possible that the personal meaning also varies very much by the listener, and that's okay, as long as there is something common that we're still communicating about.
Yeah, but you see, that's where, again, let's go back a few minutes ago. That's where the discussion is important with the composer. Because when I do the music, let's say that I'm the oboe player in an ensemble, I don't necessarily have access to the whole plot, the whole thing. I have access to my part of the thing, and that's where I'm going to spend time, and I'm going to make my own story about my part. And quite frankly, if I have time enough to work with the other, maybe there's going to be some grounds in common that we can see and say, oh yes, maybe that's what he meant, or that's why. Okay, let's make our own story. If you don't have time, you're just stuck with your parts, making your own understanding. So it makes extremely difficult this place where your part, you understand, and then you have some space. Quite frankly, not really, because we don't have access to the whole thing. And sometimes, sorry, messieurs, but it's not that clear. The plot is not that clear, and lots of composers really try to don't make it clear, So
that's another issue, yeah.
But I have to say, in my own defense, I've often made this kind of legend, the first page where the signs are explained, and I maybe say a couple of words about the piece. And often, if I give that to an ensemble or to a conductor, those beginning pages rarely reach the players in the ensemble.
Yeah, I know, and I think for me, it's again, we have to come back a little bit. Is that we are approaching music through the technicality of it, notation, duration, form, whatever. All these things are tools to build up emotions. That's what it is. But we're not talking about the emotion. We're talking about the tools. This sign's going to be for doing this, and this sign's going to be to do that, and then the plot is this, and often it's not that clear of a plot either. As a player, I never had a lesson about, okay, this piece, okay, the emotion evolves this way in the piece, throughout the piece. It starts there, and then it moves, and then it grows, and then blah, blah, blah. Not ever. But that's what I do in life. I play emotion. That's what I do.
But I have to say, also, this is maybe maybe just me. I don't know if Niilo has a different experience, but when you go through a Western European school that teaches you hardcore contemporary music, you know, you study Ligeti and Boulez and Stockhausen and Sciarrino and whatever. You don't want to go to rehearsal saying like, "Oh, please build a bridge here between my heart and what." I mean, like explain like a romantic composer, and I think everybody's a bit trying to seem like they're sensitive, but not too sensitive, because they don't want to seem like they're idiots or something, or they're like giving out too much. So maybe it's also a matter of how we have established the ethos of the whole field, how it's working.
Yes, yes, I would
You're
agree.
definitely right about it. One thing that I'm really critical actually about the 20th century modernism and very many other things in 20th century, let's say cultural history, is this kind of let's say that emotionality is a taboo, let's say, or that its tendency to look down into it. But let's be honest, emotional experience is a central part of human experience, and let's face it,
and it's the central part of music in the end.
Also, of course, because we are humans who are making music. We are not machines.
Exactly. That's for me the thing that is, and the thing is that sometimes we confuse emotion and tackiness. You know, we think that if we're emotional, then it's going to be popular or tacky or whatever it is.
Superficial or
I don't think so. I really don't. I really don't think so. And also, there's some bit of a confusion. Is that when you're trained as composer, you're all doing master degree and doctorate and all this, and you're working on extremely specific and really, and then. And maybe tell me if I'm wrong. Maybe I'm wrong, and it would be okay. And at the end of this, it's just not like, okay, of all this I've learned in that doctorate and all this, I'm gonna keep this, and because that's the only thing that is applicable in my music making. No, your doctorate is now your music making, whereas. I mean, people who do doctorate thesis in biology or whatever field they are, they don't do concert with that, do they?
They don't what?
They don't do concert with that.
Yeah.
You know, with their doctorate thesis in biology, I mean, they're not saying, okay, I'm going to read my thesis tomorrow. Let's gather in the hall and I'm going to say it. They don't do that. You know, nobody would go, there would be no interest. But they're going to, out of what they learn, they're probably going to do something that is going to be positive for the
meaningful, yes.
For everybody. But it's going to be a tiny little part that they're going to keep of their years of research that they're going to keep. And I think that there's a part in there that is, we're learning this, and of course it's important to do this research, see how it works, try, but like we said again a few minutes ago, we don't check, we don't know.
I'm going to give you a politician's answer.
No, it's just like, this is it, and the music is there, we rehearse, we do the thing, and that's it. For me now, that's what I try as a NEM artistic director, and we have this composer in residency. So we take a composer that is doing his doctorate degree at the university, and I spent 2 years with him. that's a little bit of what I do with the composer, you know, trying to get into this emotion thing, trying to get into to whom are you
Honestly, from this
writing this book?
discussion, I think so
Yep.
far, I think you should teach pretty many composers in doctoral studies around the world, so that we all get a bit more relaxed about
About it.
expressing our emotions to the
Yeah,
musicians.
and it's just also, you know, all of this they came so many often, you know, people composer come and say, oh, I'm so looking forward, you know, to write for the NEM and the rah rah. And then I say, okay, what are you going to be writing different for NEM that you would write for Intercontemporain or, you know, whatever, Klangforum or Ensemble Moderne or whoever. But what is going to be different in your writing for NEM than any other ensemble? So when you have an answer, you come back and you tell me. No, because somehow if you want to write for an ensemble, of course I want to write this composer's music, but it's not just like that's for me the place is to get really personal about the music, to get into the players. You have to know. I mean, there's a casting here. NEM as a casting. If it's a very young ensemble and people are just out of school, it's a different casting. If it, you know, there's if it's a pickup group, it's a different casting. If it's, you know, I think this is important.
Yes, I think this is a connection to what you said earlier about recordings.
Yeah.
And I think one of the problems that we have kind of inherited from the 20th century is that we are too fixed of the idea of standardization.
Mhm.
The idea that we have this and we can, you know, just repeat it everywhere.
Yeah, exactly.
But
Yeah,
so that we are not giving enough of attention to the particularity of
yeah,
the persons we are dealing with, the locality we are dealing with, the
exactly.
situation we are dealing with, and
Yeah,
so on. But
yeah.
of course, actually, now I would like to ask you, because we didn't really speak about it yet. What is the casting of NEM? What is your lineup, and kind of
What is
how do
what
you
is?
work together as persons?
Excuse me. Could you repeat? I didn't get the beginning of your question. Just repeat. Sorry.
Yes, so you were talking about the casting,
Yeah.
and
Right.
I got thinking that maybe this is a good point to tell to the wider audience who are listening us about who are you in the NEM, how many of you are, how many players there are, and which instruments are you playing, where are you from as persons, and this
Okay.
kind of.
NEM is a 15 instrument orchestra. So we have one of each strings, one of each woodwinds, but two clarinets, one of each brass, each horn, trumpet, trombone, percussion, and piano. That's the main core of the group. My goal is always to commission work for 15 people, because smaller formation, there's group already that does that. And they probably are better than we are to do that. But at the same time, it's a challenge, because to have 15-person work and rehearse, it's costly. That's really is. And like we said also earlier, just to organize the time to rehearse is costly. Over the years, and it depends with the funding or the concert we sell or whatever, there's more or less events in a year. But basically, we don't compromise on, we rather do 3 concerts in a year with a good time of rehearsal than doing 6 concerts with less time of rehearsal. We have grants that covers about, I would say, good year, bad year, around 80% of the cost of the band, which involve the rehearsal time, concert, and production and administration. The rest would depend of private funding. We had some years we had the people, we had big money. Sometimes no. So we really go with the money we have and the plan we have with tour and stuff like that.
So you would say 80% is, let's say, the grants.
Yeah.
The rest is, let's say, private money.
Yeah, private money and ticket sale. Yeah.
Yeah. How much is the ticket sales, more or less?
Or it's not
5% or what?
Something like this.
Right.
The most. Yeah. Yeah.
Mm.
And
I'm curious actually ask how this has changed or evolved in time. You mentioned earlier on that that when you started, you made a lot of tours around the world.
Yeah.
But then you didn't have any more that much of demand to that. That's when there more ensembles kind of were founded.
Yeah.
So how did this change your ways of working or your budget?
Well, the budget dropped, I would say, compared to those good years, and now it's probably dropped half or at least.
Okay.
You know? So it's quite a lot, and we're doing like fugam. We haven't done it since 2016.
Okay.
And we just don't know.
Really?
And we just don't know if we're gonna do it again. You know, so there's lots of these things that where we were extreme utopia. this just vanished because we didn't have the money to support it. You know, to do it. So that's where. So if we don't do fugam, then this we can do like two, 3 concerts with that 2 or 3 type of different production. So that's how we do. So we do a bit less concert, and the more and more the concert. Well, it's probably the same thing, and you can tell me. Less and less, you can just do a concert with like 4 or 5 pieces, and it starts and it ends and and that's it.
Yeah, you have to put the lights, and you have to put the poems, and you put
There's
interviews.
There's lots of things that need to be done and organized. And it's funny because I had discussion, and now when I do commission, and I also said to the people, okay, this piece that you're writing to us, that we're gonna talk about, and well, there's gonna be something. We're gonna have to decide. There must be something before, and there must be something after, or it ends the concert, or it starts, or where is it going to be in the concert, that piece, and what do we put before, and why are we putting this before? How does it prepare for your piece, or does it, or doesn't, or you want to, So we really organize the concert with this in mind. So I can do that with pieces that already exist, or if I have commission, that's I'm gonna do it this way, So like this again, I think that the music conversation with the public is going to make more sense. They're going to have, they're not only going to grab each piece individually, but they're going to have a whole spectrum of things. And it is, for me, these lights and Mickey Mouse ears and all this, it's just like, oh God, it's for me, if we have to explain the music, we're in deep shit.
Yeah.
But look, and I'm sorry for jumping to another question.
It's okay, it's okay.
But like, this is also something that it's important to discuss. I've often gone to contemporary music cons. If I go to a contemporary music cons, I'm a composer. I don't need lights. I don't need explanations. I've studied enough of this. I'm probably gonna get it. But I know that many people are not gonna get it, and we still also need audience. And this is one way of getting audience, making a show out of the concert, having a microphone on the stage with some interactive thing, and composers come and explain a joke or two, and I don't know, some small video before the first piece and small video before the break, and I don't know. And then you feel like, this is an event. But in a way, it does say that, it a bit says that we are trying to compensate because we're afraid that you guys are not going to get it.
Well,
Niilo.
Yeah.
I would say that this is part of the discussion of the context where we are.
Yeah, exactly.
And it depends, like, you shouldn't think the music separate from its context. So some music is made for being listened just as it is, without anything extra. Yeah. And then again, there is some music that is, for example, made from the start, from the beginning, to work with lights or some visuals. Yeah. And then it's a whole different thing. And I think you can do many things very well, as long as it begins from your soul, and it's not something extra that you just add to the top on the last minute. Yeah,
exactly. And they do that now with Mozart and Beethoven. I mean, they do the exact same thing now. But for me, I think that, for example, when it was the 30th birthday of NEM, it was like a special event with the percussion and, I mean, a big shebang thing, And we said, okay, we have somehow to acknowledge the people that we're happy that they're there, But we cannot do that by saying we're happy that you're here tonight, I mean, it's not strong of a thing to do that, And for me, more and more, the people that goes to the concert, and it's true since the beginning of time, we're a living art, so that's how it works. People in the audience are seeing you on stage. Not often the musician know that, or they're aware of that, or they hide behind the music, or they hide behind the stands, but they would do really silly things, during concert, and would say, why on earth is he doing that? And why is he swabbing his instrument doing these two movements? I mean, what's the clue? Water? I mean, it doesn't make sense. Never seen a ballerina adjust his tutu, on stage between two dance. I mean, it just doesn't happen. So we said, okay, we want to acknowledge the people. We want to make sure, we want to tell them that we know they're there. And it was a very simple thing. It was not complicated, but I did hire a stage director, and we practiced for 2 hours the first salut at the beginning of the concert. How we would enter the stage, how we would go in front of stage, bow, and then come back to our seat, sit still, look there. I mean, the people were just like this. And it wasn't something, big dramatic thing. No, it was just, okay, let's acknowledge this and let's do it with the right purpose correctly. and the people are again. And for me, that this is what is. It's difficult to find exactly, but this relation, if you know that you're seen, then you're going to act differently. Then you don't need to do staging or lights or anything, because this discussion is already started with the public. There already is a contact that is happening, that is, and it's all about, and again, we're adding back to what we were talking at the very beginning. For whom are we doing this? We're doing this for the public. That's for them that we're doing this,
And you don't think that if we have 30 people in the room, there must be something too elitist that we are doing?
I'm coming. You see, there's if you allow me, there's two, three things here that we can. I mean, we did talk about the doctor thing. For me, this is part of it. The other part is that we're doing contemporary music. We're not doing music. Have you ever noticed that? We're doing contemporary music. We're not doing music. If we would do just music, it would probably already be better. And not so people would go to a concert. They would go to a music concert. They wouldn't go to a contemporary music concert. Just that. It's. I remember being at a reunion with. There were lots of composers, and they had all these things. You probably have that also in Finland. Mediation. Talk about the piece and where it's from and how it's composed and blah blah blah. It's like if we had to explain why a flower is good looking and smell well, probably we wouldn't like flowers, because it's like talking about arithmetics, and it's nothing. It doesn't mean anything. So. And people are questioning, why aren't we having more people in the audience and babli? And I said, okay, now, I think we've been doing this for 100 years now. If we go back to Varese and Schönberg and all these guys, it's been 100 years that we're writing contemporary music. And things didn't get better. We don't have more people. We don't have more of any of this. Not 5 years, not 10, 100 years. I said, maybe we should start asking ourselves if we're doing the right thing. Maybe it's not the audience that is wrong. Maybe that whole thing that we want to do around it is just plaster. Maybe it's time for us to say, are we doing the right thing? Are we really doing the right thing? Because somehow, I remember, I don't know to whom I was talking, but I said that earlier. I hope that you're not going to be there each time your piece is going to be played and you have to explain it. I hope. That this is your goal in life, that you're not be able to know where your piece is played, and it's played everywhere. So
the music has to resonate with people, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So this
I
is.
Think, yes, I think quite many people are thinking this question. What that just said, that if we are doing the right thing, or if we're seeing kind of the diversity of various musical approaches amongst the generation of let's say me and Matei, not to speak of the composers who are younger than us. You may often ask whether it's kind of relevant to speak this music in the same sentence as with Schönberg. Sometimes yes, sometimes no. And maybe about when we're talking about contemporary music, like often people are thinking that it's kind of the contemporary music that started then, But if we just think what contemporary means, basically, as a very naive way, it means of our time. And actually, when this concert music, that is just music, started, let's think of the concert culture, the early 19th century. At that time, all the music that was played, or almost all of the music, was actually contemporary to their time. So maybe the question is that we need to rethink what is actually to be contemporary and what is to be in connection with our time and with the people who live in the same time as we do.
You are a bit going into semantics, though, in my view. Like
that's my bad habit.
Like my mom and dad I always think about them. They're music lovers. They like Beethoven. They like Mahler. They like whatever. But if you put them Schoenberg, they're not gonna like it. And I think, because I also grew up there, also not liking Schoenberg, I think I know I would say still that the problem is in the musical language. If there's a lot of dissonance, people are used to tonal relations. It's very hard to let's say train people to hear differently. Though I would say that young people have much less problem with this than people who have already listened to the same kind of music for a very long time.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
So I think the reason why Schoenberg is still contemporary, it's because Schoenberg is also dissonant, like, I don't know, Lachenmann. Although, of course, it's a very different style, and but I think people make the difference between this sounds nice and it's tonal, and this doesn't sound nice and it's atonal.
Yeah. Well, I didn't want to put Schoenberg on the hot spot here. I was more thinking of the music of the 60s, Boulez and all this.
Also that,
And if you listen to what's written now, I mean, even you put Boulez right now, you know, something Explosion Fix or whatever it is, and to an audience, they probably would say, well, this was written yesterday. You know, it's just like, that's probably how it feels. Well, actually, we did that not so long ago, and that's exactly what the people told us. But I think, of course, the youngs, if you take the kids, they have no a priori, and they would get into this, and they would, I mean, they're going to get something out of it. They're not going to be so strict. So the training of the musician has to be different. But again, I think that we have to go back into. I don't want to say too much about emotion, but I would like to say more about dramaturgy. It is something that this dramaturgy could be done with extremely modern means. It doesn't have to be. And one thing, and again, it's just a saying. I'm not too sure, but when you look, you know, at these work of art, and there's been a time where you add a frame, some sort of tonal frame, and all this, and you had composer going out of the frame, and then you would get out, like exactly like Schoenberg and Berg and these people. They got out of the frame because the frame they had, they could not express what they wanted to express within the frame. I think that now the frame is not that clear.
No,
there's not that clear of a frame that we can get out of it and do something. You see, I think that, and this is part of.
Yes and no, I would say.
Yeah, but that's please.
Like, well, I've encountered two problems in this sense. One is that, well, schools usually establish a school of thought, let's say. So you have the Darmstadt and you have the conceptuals, and you have the spectralists and so on. So very often these people try to take forward what they like. So, I mean, even in Finland, we have, let's say, a school where the styles of people are closer to each other than, than the styles of people from completely different area.
Yeah, yeah.
So that, I think that's inevitable to happen. So in that sense, I do think we have some kind of uniformity, at least locally. Also, I would say there is some kind of, let's say, generic contemporary music idiom, I would say. Well, I cannot start singing to you now. I mean, it's too much. But there are things that there are certain kind of cliches that it sounds like contemporary music, and I think we always try to make our music sound contemporary. So inevitably, we try to find those things that connect us to other people's music also. On one hand, we try to be very personal, but in the same time, we try to also sound like we're part of the picture. So that would be one issue. The other is that, and I talk with Niilo this many times, with grant applications, when you want to apply to get a piece performed, either you're an ensemble or a composer, you just want to apply with your clarinet and piano and cello piece. But no, you cannot do that because you're not going to get the funding. So then you start saying like, I'm going to do this Sanskrit poem and I'm going to turn it upside down and I'm going to combine it with Nordic runes and I'm going to put it on the wall and so on. And then you have to do that because you're going to get the money. The grant strategist, you're like, this sounds interesting. He knows what he wants, he has personality. Then you're going to get them. Then you're going to have to start this. And most of these funds usually are looking for projects that are thinking outside the box. And my problem is that if you force people to always think outside the box, you create a new box. So
perhaps actually now you touched kind of the core of the problem, because I was, or let's say this put two of the cores kind of tangentially together. I was earlier on about Normand's earlier point about questioning it about the frame, if it's clear or not. I was thinking if the distinction between the kind of contemporary period and then let's say like the time of Beethoven or time of Tchaikovsky and so on, is that at that time the frame, perhaps maybe this is an oversimplification, but also the audience had some idea of the frame, and you could more easily play with expectations and slight only tiny deviations of the frame and of the box. But now when there are multiple possible boxes around you, it becomes more complex, and the question of for whom you are writing actually, and what kind of possibilities do you have to communication, it becomes more complex.
Yeah, of course. And funnily, you're talking about Bach. His music was written once and played once.
We are here today doing the same.
And then you would write something else, and it would be played, and it would die, and that'd be it. But whereas also, today we have all this together, layered on top of each other. All these things layered, and there's lots of.
But also, when you mentioned Bach, I would like to add there that he also played his own music.
Of course. Yeah.
He also rehearsed his own music, and he did it every week, every day.
Yeah.
And so every day he wrote something, he played something, he rehearsed something, to put it very simply. And that is something very different from like how we typically do it nowadays. I might compose one piece for several months, then take the score to the performer who is then perhaps looking several months to it and then it maybe gets the
several months.
one performance. So the one performance is here kind of the thing that is common, but otherwise the process is totally different. So for example, if I would every day write a new piece, next day I would perform it myself and get some immediate reception from the audience. That would make I would say that would be a totally different circumstances for the musical practice, let's say.
Different dynamic.
Interaction.
Yeah, exactly. That's one of the things I'm doing now also with these composers. I say, okay, you want to write for NEM, that's good, that's perfect, that's great. What instrument are you playing? What instrument do you play? Electric guitar, bass? Oh, nice. Be cool that we have that in the piece. And it would be even cooler if you played it in your piece with us. Reaction here is not always, oh yeah, woo, you know.
That would be my reaction, like not, I mean, like I would try to run away.
The first reaction I have is, I'm not gonna have my composer experience. I'm not gonna be able to be a composer. I'm not gonna be able to be in the hall listening to the piece I've been creating for you and living this experience.
Yeah, my problem would be that I will play bad rhythms and I will not be together with the conductor, and then.
Yeah, but the thing is that for me is that we. So sorry about that.
Yeah.
Okay, it's over. For me, it forced the composer to put some sort of a human side into this. I'm not a good performer. I'm gonna have to go out of my way of writing usually because I used to write for extremely good player. Now I'm gonna have to think about the player that which is me. Mm-hmm. And for me, I hope that it's gonna do the same thing for the other player that is in there. And also it's gonna change the relation he has with the other player in the ensemble because he's gonna be part of the band, which is kind of cool. And whereas to say your experience in the hall, I say, okay, now you have like one of the best band playing contemporary music here in front of you, in which you're going to be playing, and you have this great conductor. She probably can handle dynamics and speed and all the things that you want to experience. She probably can handle this because that's how the music is going to be done. Hopefully that's how your music is going to be played by people you don't know, with conductor you don't know, and with you not. But having this different way of being in the music, for me, I think I'm not too sure, but for me, it's part also in that path going through for whom are you writing the music. There's also that's another brick that I put there onto that path of going there. One last thing for me, I think that, and we didn't talk much about this, a little bit about notation, but it's time perception. For me, that is extremely important. The time perception of a player and the time perception of the public is two different things. We know in advance what's going to be happening. The people in the audience don't. They're always one step back than the players. And I think that, I'm not sure if it's a preoccupation for the composer, how the people perceive time, you know? Because basically what they get is, it's long, it's short, it's long, it's short, short. And they doing that only if you play the next note. I mean, that's how it is. And this, for me, is something that is, I think it's another thing that we have to put into the conception and the understanding of how it's the music gets perceived, because the people in the audience, the music is extremely linear. You know, it's not like a architectural construction. For them, it's there's nothing, there's this noise, then it goes fast, and I mean that's how it is. And on our side, it's like a gigantic cathedral or whatever it is. I don't know what it is. It's extremely constructed and organized, and but the way it's on the other end, it cannot be this way unless at the very end of this, like, oh, okay, maybe if it's well constructed and all this, they're gonna know what the construction was about. But I think this is something I do that when I play, like when I play Baroque music or whatever. More and more, I'm thinking, okay, here the notes are one after the other, like this, you know, and I know I'm supposed to be playing this note now, you know, because it's 216 note. I better play this note now. But this person doesn't know there. I have no clue that there's another note coming, you know. And wherever I'm going to play this next note, it's going to be the next note. It's not going to be anything different. And then you can get into the rhetoric of things much more. The phrase, you can finish like they do in theater. They're going to say something, or when you do poetry or whatever it is, you say something and then you let the audience sink in the idea that just came in. And sometimes the guy is just going to repeat the line because to make sure that. And I said, okay, why cannot we do that when we play music? Why cannot we stop and say, again, oh, this, I just played this, and this like was a heavy bunch of things. I'm going to stop a minute there and let you grab this. Want me to do it again? I'm going to do it again. Just make sure that you get the point and then keep going. I think that this would just make, you know, this understanding for the public, for everybody, but also to this perception they have of how the thing is built and organized, because they don't have access to the old structure. They're going to have access once it's done, you know. But us as player, we know, you know, they're going to be surprised there, you know, and then we act a bit because we know, not because we're at this place at this moment.
So what you're saying is, I just remembered once I heard an interview with Peter O'Toole, who was saying that somebody from the audience once said in a play that he played, like, oh my God, you looked like you were so free, that it was so spontaneous. And he was like, yes, because this was the 328th representation of this, and I know this by heart. If you wake me up, I know it. And I think what you're saying is a bit like this, that you, if I'm getting it right, your ideal process would be this: the musician and the composer both know where the piece is supposed to go, and the musician is a perfect filter for the music of the composer, and then the performer is trying to, in a way, understands the music so well that it is able to mind read or transplant its feelings and emotions to the audience.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Because that's how it could be done. Otherwise, it's like saying something in Russian, but that I learned through phonetics. It's always going to sound like I have an accent. It's not. You know, and it's not going to be as fluent, and I won't understand what I'm saying. You know,
or
with the old what really it means, you know, in this word or this
or making a love declaration that you learned from a book than making one that you actually mean. And
yeah, exactly to get into. And I've been privileged enough to work with actors and mimes and all this, and all these questions about. I remember working with mimes who were doing Così fan tutte for woodwind quintet and 4 mimes, no singers, so there were no words and everything. And one of the characters at some point, the director asked him to do whatever gesture. I don't remember what it was. And then it stopped and said, "Why? What? How on earth I built so much angriness or whatever? So I slap it in the face here. Where is this coming from? Where in the path I just passed? I cannot arrive here and just slam it. I have to somehow build it so I arrive there, and it makes sense that I do that. If I don't know this, it's not going to work." And sometime in music, I feel that that's what we're doing. We're doing an accent, but how? Where does it come from? Where is this coming from? How do I build it? And this is what Peter Houghton was saying: is okay, we have to build this so when we arrive there and we slam or scream or whatever we're doing, it makes sense. We build it with the proper energy before we arrive there. We do it, and then after doing this, you have to relax. You have to stay more. I mean, you have to create this path, and I think that with this, whatever you're going to be doing can be understood, or you can rely on this. And again, it doesn't have to be. When you look at visual arts, it's not true that you understand everything, but sometimes you're just touched by a color or by this, and I think that you can do that in music as well. You don't have to understand everything, but it has to be your path anyway has to be clear. Whether it is not to be understand, but this has to be clear. It has to be clear that you don't want to be understand, and then stop turning around about it. That's what you're doing. Yeah.
Let's imagine that there is somebody who wants to create an ensemble and make it as successful as LeNEM. I mean, in the way that you really can grasp the utopia. What would be your advice?
I think the advice, as we talked earlier of all this, it goes with integrity. It goes with why we do things. If we do that with extreme sincerity, I think that this, for me, this is. Of course, everybody says, "Well, of course, I'm doing this sincerely." Of course, it's not that obvious. It's not that obvious that you have to have some sort of humility about it, and this, you have to. Sorry about the word, but you have to have some sort of a devotion to music, but not devotion to music so much as if I don't have music, I'm going to die. Not that type of devotion, but more of loving the music for the music, for the world that it encompasses, for the time that you're going to spend doing this, not having the solution, not knowing, let yourself being surprised all the time. I think this is what is more important, and after that is being faithful about what you're doing. Because otherwise, it's if you don't believe it yourself, it's not gonna happen. After that, all this, and I think that you can correct me, but more and more, you cannot do this without being able to have an overview of things. You cannot be so canalized into your own little world. You have to be able to put in context, to organize, and then you have to have very concrete being able to deal, budget, to have these skills as well, which is, and communication. I mean, now the thing is that you have to master all these things. But if at the very ground of things, your musical purpose is not your own devotion, then it's not going to work, because the boat is going to go wherever the winds goes. You know, it's not going to. So you have to have a path. The thing with a path is that you can change, and that's okay. There's no problem. Shouldn't be the wind that decide what the path is, which is two different things. So I'm not sure that this is good advice, but that's the only advice I would have, because, like I said, when we started the NEM, we wanted to do a concert. That was a goal. We're going to do a concert, and this is this. And 30
Maybe
years
you were also surrounded by very, let's say, reliable people who wanted the same thing.
Yeah,
'Cause
exactly.
I think that's important.
Yeah, the group that was there, NEM members, they were all into this, and we all said, okay, we do this because Lorraine is there, and we're following her. You know, that's she's going there, we're going with her. That's it. She's been faithful to all the musicians. Never happened that she said, okay, this guy out. Never happened. There's some people that still plays with NEM that were there the first night. There's 3 people that are still playing with NEM now that were there the first night. And there's many of them that are there since 20, 25 years, you know. So the people are there because the way it's organized, I mean, Lorraine has a big role to play into this. So I think that this has been the recipe for NEM. I don't know if it can work still today like this, but that's what I would have to say about this.
Very shortly for the ending, for, let's say, a positive note, because now this pandemic has shown that how fragile our musical world is with financing, with everything. What should we do, contemporary music ensembles, composers, to like have a clear future, you know, and not face as many problems as we are now, or to make sure that we will have a enthusiastic audience who is interested in?
Well, I think if we listen back to what we just said in the past 2 hours, I think that the word that would stand out would be the public. For whom are we doing this? And if that's clear, I think that all is going to be
all
done.
Comes together.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And not so much into that. Let's do this for the public and put Mickey Mouse ears. No, not that. But in the whole process, that everybody has to know that we're doing this for people. And
yes.
They are the ones that are paying us. I mean, at the end of the day. And it's, I mean, you've experienced this. You know, you have your piece played and people stand up and, you know, I mean, this is fantastic. That's why we're doing this. You know, that's exactly why we're doing this. And I think that there's intelligent way of doing this. There's contemporary ways of doing this. But in schools, we have to have places where we could talk about this.
Sure.
Where we could talk about interpretation, where we could talk for whom we're doing these things. You know, I think that the discussion has to happen, whereas it doesn't enough right now. But for me, if we have this in mind,
we're fine.
I think we're fine, really.
I think this is a very good ending note.
Mm-hmm.
at least I think it from the point that both me and Matei are also teaching. So maybe we need to think more of the occasions where we can add to our teaching those moments where we really are thinking why we are doing this, and that we are vocalizing the questions of integrity and honesty.
Yeah.
That will serve the, let's say,
To inspire the spirit of
why
the music.
we need those technical aspects that we then most of the time will be dealing with.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right, gentlemen, it has been a pleasure.
A real pleasure.
Norman, thank you very much for taking part in our podcast. It was a pleasure to have you. But
Anytime.
anytime. Okay, I'll keep that in mind. But for now, we must end. So thank you very much, everyone. And thank you, Niilo, very much. And thank you, Norman. And you've been tuning into KeyKulture podcast. Obviously, like, share, and subscribe. Now I put the Mickey Mouse hat, but maybe it's okay. All right. Have a great day, everybody.
Have a nice evening.
Bye.